as our very own. He's the host of Special Report. I think he took all the joy out of the Kamala Harris campaign today. She didn't look particularly joyous doing this interview, but I thought you did a great job with a very limited amount of time. And I just want take us behind the scenes. What was going on?
Yeah, obviously, thanks, Sean. It's great to see you. It was a little tense. We were given the time of 5 p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, my show is at 6 p.m. They wanted to tape at 5 p.m. We said we were going to tape as live. In other words, roll the tape and then just turn that around, unedited, uninterrupted, and but we had to do it before 5:15. Otherwise, we couldn't turn the whole machine around before the top of the 6 p.m. show. So we were waiting at 4:55, and then 5, and then 5:05, and then 5:10. At 5:17, the vice president walked out. So it did feel a little bit like they're icing the kicker or trying to. And originally they were talking about 25 minutes and they gave us 20 minutes. And I was fine with any time. I was really happy to get the interview. But I knew right away when we started asking questions, that this was kind of a sense that she was going to keep on talking, and that if I wanted to get through and redirect, I was going to have to interrupt. I don't particularly love to do that, but if I didn't do it, there may have been, 4 answers in the interview.
Well,
They set it up. They set it up to where he would only have 20 minutes, and then they were shutting him down immediately. And that's nonsense. And it's disingenuous. I think that it's reflective of who she is. I think that they're trying to finesse the people. And the fact that they just wanted they wanted the credibility to say that, nope, I pulled up to op territory and I didn't avoid anybody. But they wanted to do it strategically to where they wasn't going to get any answers. And thankfully, you had an experienced journalist that was willing to cut through the BS and get to the real. So fake. And he called it for what it is, and he dealt with it accordingly. Shout out to Bret.
I don't really think you had any choice. And for people that don't understand the time in TV, if somebody's trying to filibuster or avoiding a direct question, which you did repeatedly, or just going off and using that moment or every moment to attack her opponent, as I think she did often in this, what I did like about what you did, I'm guessing you probably had 50 questions in your arsenal that you were ready to ask, questions you would have loved to have gotten to.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
75.
But what I noticed, and I think you had to do, is, for example, you did spend a significant amount of time on immigration. Now, I played a lot of tape at the beginning of this show. She wants to decriminalize illegal immigration. She said it in her own words. She wants free housing, health care, education, sex change surgeries. She's on tape saying it. You brought up Tim Walz's position, driver's licenses, free college, a path to citizenship, amnesty. They rescinded all of the Trump and they said it proudly, all of the Trump policies that were working. Trump's chart that he loves so much shows that. That's the chart that saved his life in Butler, PA. And she just denied it and wouldn't answer it. I was more shocked at her lack of apology to people that died by these unvetted illegal immigrants that came in because of their policies.
Yeah. So I studied how she's answered immigration before, and it really does go through a TikTok. She says when they first arrive in office, they put forward this bill, and it didn't go through. But she doesn't talk about the bill. It was an amnesty bill for 11 million illegal aliens inside the country over 8 years. They had control of the White House, the Senate, and the House, and yet the Democratic leadership didn't put that bill forward, and the White House really didn't even push it. But she starts there, and then she says there's this evolution. She tried to do all these things with the president, and then they had this comprehensive effort, this bipartisan bill. The bipartisan bill was voted against by 8 Democrats, and it had some major problems that conservatives didn't like. There were about 1.8 million illegal immigrants that would be let in every year, and there were all kinds of other stipulations that conservatives didn't like, so it didn't have a chance. She says that these things happened very quickly. The one bill and the other bill, there were 3.5 years in between them. And in that time, 94 executive orders were rescinded, among them catch and release, and remain in Mexico. And that's why a lot of these people were released. It's, there's different numbers, but if you go by the Homeland Security Secretary, 85% of the apprehensions, it's more than 6 million people. And some of them committed heinous crimes. And that's why I wanted to go down that road at the beginning. And I spent a lot of time on it, but I thought nobody else would go into that depth, and I figured it was worth it.
And it was absolutely worth it, and he nailed it. I personally said that I believe that if I was to ever go into it and deep dive into it, that would be the thing that I spent 99% of my interview on, was to hammer on immigration and the lies that they try to spew and say, where they try to say, well, we came up with this bipartisan deal, and they try to talk for a long time and filibuster about it. But no, it came in late 2023 going into 2024. They undid 94 of the executive orders the first day that they got into office that Trump had set in place that had largely stemmed the flow of illegal migrants into the country. They then created a plan that was going to allow for a bunch of migrants into the country, all at the same time dumping them into all of your cities, which they effectively did. And they actually overperformed on that. And she didn't like the fact that he was well studied and prepared for them to try to finesse, for them to try to, say a bunch of stuff that wasn't true. And then that leading to them saying and continuing to lie to the people that ultimately don't read these bills. They're not familiar with it. They didn't study what's happened over the last 3.5 years. But I have. And so, I don't have the type of access to be able to get into the room and then make lemonade out of lemons like Bret did. But he 100. If there was anybody that absolutely destroyed her campaign by calling out the lies and hypocrisy in less than 20 minutes, it was Bret. And then they tried to limit the amount of time that he had to do that.
I think it was enlightening, and I think if you didn't follow up and you didn't press it and you didn't inform viewers about what was actually in that bill, because you're right, she gives the same answer. The only answer that I got to give her credit she didn't use is she didn't say, did you know I came from a middle-class family? I expected that answer at some point. At one point, you reminded her that she had been in power for 3.5 years. She has been saying on the campaign trail she will fix inflation on day one. She will deal with the border on day one. Wasn't day one January 20th, 2021? And then at one point she said, well, you know what I mean. And you said, no, I really don't. Explain that.
Yeah, I really didn't. I played the sound bites. You remember, she had a couple of bites at the apple in a couple of shows. The View, Stephen Colbert, they essentially asked the same question. She did it on The View. It got a lot of attention. I think Stephen Colbert maybe asked it again to try to give a cleanup operation. I played those sound bites for her and essentially thinking they have to have a different answer now, this many days later. And it really didn't have that much substance differently, saying that she would do something differently. So the theme of the campaign is a new way forward and turn the page. And what I said was, if you're turning the page, who are you turning the page on? You were the vice president for the last 3.5 years. And obviously went with some follow-ups. When she said, you know what I'm talking about, Donald Trump has been running for 10 years, I was just being honest. I didn't know what she was talking about. And I was trying to get at what she was saying.
If y'all think that this woman is competent enough to be president, and I'm going to be honest with y'all, I actually don't even think that her and Biden likes each other. I don't think that her and Biden got along at all. And the reports that was coming out when they first got into the office together was that it was a lot of friction and the people didn't like working for her and working with her, and that it was a difficult thing. But Bret absolutely executed. Y'all let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description, and then get your tickets to kick it with me in person. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to holler at y'all later. I'm out.